ये अपने वाले अरुण कुमार से तो नहीं है क्या पता कौन।
Good afternoon, all. I hope all of you are doing well. And today we have with us Dr. B.C. Mondal, Professor Animal Nutrition, College of Veterinary Sciences, GPBUAT, Pantnagar, Uttarakhand. Sir has chosen the topic of deliberation: nutritional elements in fodder, feeds, and its role on animal production. Sir, you are audible as well as visible. You can start, sir. The session is being recorded now.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please start.
So, good afternoon, everyone. So, myself, B.C. Mandal, Professor Animal Nutrition, College of Veterinary Animal Sciences, Pantnagar. My topic of discussion, just little bit correction what sir has mentioned. It is not animal production. Repeatedly, I asked that it is animal reproduction. So, nutritional elements in feeds and fodder and its role on animal reproduction. So this is a topic I have chosen, but reason is that animal production always we say that it should be profitable business, and profitable will be if we get in a good quantity of milk and offspring in regular intervals. From that angle, the reproduction is very much important. So we say always the nutrition has a positive role on animal reproduction. And if we consider the nutrition elements in feeds and fodder, so it contain mainly nutrients, that is the carbohydrate, fat, proteins, vitamins, and minerals. So in this presentation, I will try to discuss what are the role of this carbohydrate, fat, protein, minerals, and vitamins on the reproductive performance of the animals. So that's feed what we offer to the animals from nutrition's point of view. We say it is the concentrate feed or roughest feed or forest feed. So concentrate feed, that mainly the energy rich feed, also the protein rich feed. If we take the examples, so energy rich feed what we offer to the animals, that's mainly the maize, barley, oat, wheat, molasses, etc. And the protein rich feed, so that mainly consists of the cakes, that is the soybean meal, cottonseed meal, or cakes, corn gluten meal, like that. So, and the roughage, that may be wet or dry. So, and the nutritional quality of the roughage also vary. So, some of the roughage that we offer to the animals may contain, say, a higher amount of protein, say grass, legumes, hay, and other type of legume fodder, and dry fodder that contains the low CP, that may be different type of cereal straws that we offer, that is the wheat straw, rice straw, like that. And also we offer the dry feed, say the pasture and the green chop, silage, haylage. That are the feed we offer generally to the animals. Now, if we talk about the composition, nutrition elements in the commonly used feed and fodder, so here I have cited some examples. So that is reported by NDDB, that this is the concentrate. So if we see that thing, the maize, sorghum, wheat, barley, so these are low protein containing feed, and it contains higher amount of energy. So that we can see from the NFE%, nitrogen free extract, that consists of this carbohydrate, mainly soluble carbohydrate, that is glucose and starch. So that figure is very high in this type of grains. And the other part, this if we see look into these cakes, the soybean meal, cottonseed meal, so that is high in protein, but it is low in, or we can say the low in the soluble sugars or the starch and soluble carbohydrate. And ether extract, so I have presented that the ether extract, that means it is the fat percent of the feed. That this concentrate feed, it is very low, so 4 to 2, like that. And the if we say ash, so in nutritional term, it is the total mineral content of the feed. So ash content is also low in cereal grains. Of course, this ash content and total mineral content is somewhat higher in case of these cakes. So soybean meal, cottonseed meal, like that, it is a little bit higher as compared to this cereal grains. So this is about the protein percent, fat percent, and the soluble sugar percent and ash percent. Okay. So if we proceed further, so this is about the roughest part, the dry feed that generally we offer to the animal. This is sorghum, oats, cowpea, lucerne, like this. So here the striking point is this legume fodder, this lucerne, berseem, these contain higher amount of ash, any total minerals content. So it is very rich in calcium, this legume fodder, green fodder itself. So here I have mentioned hay, it is the dried one. Also it contains higher amount of minerals. So that is depended by the higher content of total ash, any total mineral content. Also the protein content is also higher as compared to the cereal, cereal fodder like sorghum, oat. So it is somewhere 5 to 7%. Here, if we see the cowpea, lucerne, berseem, it is 15-16%. Now the last one is the straw. So it is the wheat straw, oat straw, barley, millet. So it is very poor in nutritional substance. So protein percent is very low. It is 3 to 4%. Also the NFE percent is also low, but crude fiber percent. So that is the cellulose hemicellulose lignin percent is very high, and this cellulose hemicellulose lignin that is partially digested. We should say the cellulose and hemicellulose is digested, but not the lignin. So it is the straw, it is the mature crops. So here the lignin and cellulose is bind form. It is combined, it is joined by the lignocellulosic bond. So that's why rumen biocrops are not able to degrade this thing when it is in bond form. So that's why the digestibility of this straw is very low. It is hardly 50%. So 45-46% is the total dry matter digestibility in case of the straw. Now, if we see we are talking about the reproductive efficiency. So there are certain factors that influence the reproductive efficiency of the these animals. So the very first one is the nutrition, another one the genetics, pathological condition, environment, the photoperiod, temperature, management, and stress. So here I will go with the this nutritional factor that is responsible for the reproductive efficiency performance of the animals. Now the nutritional infertility, what we say, so that mainly due to some factor, that is the if we feed the animals with the mature crops and crop residue, because already I mentioned that this mature crop fodder, that is the straws, so that is very poor in nutritional support. That is it contains very low quantity of protein, high quantity of this cellulose hemicellulose lignin, and low quantity of this soluble sugars and starch. So if we maintain these animals only with this feeding mature crop residues, that may lead to the nutritional infertility. Further, the feeding of very young forest crops, these forest crops, that is also nutritionally not that much sound, because it contains huge quantity of moisture, or we can say water, but low quantity of this nutritional factors. And the less feed availability during the critical stage, like during the calf, pregnancy, lactation. So if the feed availability is less, so then also this we find the nutritional infertility, and further feeding of manufactured feed or concentrates. So this point is also important, because many times what we find, the farmer, they procure feed from the market, and there are numbers of feed. We should not say the names actually. So there are a number of manufactured feed that is mainly deficient in particularly some of the basic minerals. So if it is deficient, then that will definitely affect the reproductive efficiency of the animals. So that is the mainly cause the nutritional infertility. Now in Indian condition, so undernutrition is the more common condition in India that cause the infertility of the animals. So the negative energy balance during early lactation in the high yielding dairy cows is the major cause of low fertility. So if the energy balance is not proper, so if we are offering low quantity of feed, less energy, then this type of happening are there. So animal will show the low fertility condition or infertility condition. So the negative energy balance also delays the recovery of postpartum reproductive function. That means that after a calving and the next calving, though this gap between these two calving will increase. So that also reduces the fertility efficiency of the animals. Okay, then another one main point is that in case of high yielding animals, so when the animal is in the milking conditions, so then also the conception rate is somewhat low as compared to the dry one. So that's why it is recommended that after the last part of a particular lactation, the milk collection should be stopped and the animal should be dried up so that it will conceive for the next gestation period, next pregnancy period. Okay, now so there are two types of this effect. We find due to this that affect the fertility of the animals. So that one may be the direct effect. So that is the development of oocytes, that egg from the ovary and the spermatozoa and their quality, then ovulation, conception, fertilization, establishment of pregnancy, and there may be some indirect effect that we can say the concentration of circulatory hormones. There are certain important hormones like LH, luteinizing hormone, FSH, follicular stimulating hormone, that is very much important for the proper reproduction. So if there is any change in concentration, also there are certain metabolites that is required for the success of fertility. Now, so we like to say that the better plan of nutrition, if there is better plan of nutrition, then there is early sexual maturity in the animals. So we can have the newborn animals from a particular animals early if we provide the better nutrition to the animals. Now, in case of mature animals, if we give the poor nutrition, so the imbalanced feeding, so what will happen is that there will be reduced in production of ova, and as a result of that, female either fail to conceive or they produce fewer offspring than the normal. So we will get less number of these calves from that particular animals if the feeding is not proper, so your nutrition is not proper. Now, as a result of imbalanced feeding, so what we can say, there is shorter lactation length and longer intercalving period. So generally we say this lactation length is somewhat 310 days, 300 days. So we will get milk from the animals less than that period. Okay, so it may be lesser than the 300 days, and also there will be longer intercalving period. There will be more gap between the two calving intervals, and there will be low milk production, poor growth, as well as poor reproduction. So as a result, if we combine all these things, so we can say there will be lower profit to the farmers. Now, so what already I have discussed, that if you see that the poor nutrition, so we can see that some workers, they have reported that if we provide the plane of nutrition, say high, medium, low in case of this male or female. So we find in case of better nutrition, higher plane of nutrition, so the first age of puberty is somewhere about 9 months, 37 weeks only. But if the nutritional status is very low, so it takes about the at least double time, so 72 weeks in case of female. And another example for male, so for higher plane of nutrition, that 37 weeks is the puberty age, and low plane of nutrition is 51 weeks. So there is significant role of this nutrition for the attainment of puberty in the animals. So if we provide the better nutrition, so we can get newborn for a particular animals at the earliest. Okay, and many a time we say the reproduction is all or nothing phenomenon. So if the animal is not conceived, then we will get nothing from the animals. So it is, or if it is conceived, then we will get offspring, like that. So it is all or nothing phenomenon. This thing, the reproductive efficiency, reproductive function is that. Okay, now, so I will take one by one the nutrients. So what is the role of that nutrients on the reproductive efficiency? So first, the energy. So we say the energy is the single most important nutritional factor related to poor reproductive function of the animals. So now if we give the insufficient or even excess, so in nutrition we say, so deficiency or excess, both are bad thing. So deficiency should not be there and excess is equally bad. So in insufficient or excess energy intake, so that produces the subnormal reproductive performance. How? So I have cited one example. So if we say the negative energy balance, then in the system we find, so there is increase in this urea concentration in the blood, the non-esterified NEFA, non-esterified fatty acids concentration is increased, and insulin-like growth factor, that concentration that is required for the normal metabolism of the glucose and the other nutrients, so that is decreased. So as a result, a consequence, what do you see? The decrease in oocyte quality, change in uterine environment, inhibit embryo development, decrease follicle development, all these things happen. So this type of situation we find when there is negative energy balance in the system, this within the animal body, means we are not providing adequate amount of energy what the animal need. Now if there is, okay, so this the same thing is here. So if there is negative energy balance, the delayed sexual maturity, restricted follicular development, increased calving interval, there's irregular stress cycle, high incidence dystocia, and also there's a poor nutrition for the spermatozoa as well as fertilized ova, because it creates a hypoglycemic condition, low sugar level in the blood, as well as there will be low sugar level in the mucus of the genital tract, and from there only the spermatozoa or fertilized ova get energy, nourishment at the very earliest stage of their life. Okay. Now, if there is excess of energy, so that results the fat cow syndrome, and when there is fat cow syndrome, that also leads to the infertility, and the cause is there is the production of small oocytes, small ova, as well as cessation of ovulation. So as a result, so we will get low productive efficiency in the next lactation. So there will be a loss of fertility or some irregular stress cycle and all these things. So if there is fat cow syndrome, any excess intake of energy in the animals. Now after that is the protein. So all of we know that the protein is required for all this body function, the milk synthesis, reproduction, as well as for body maintenance. So protein is necessary for the proper functioning of the reproductive organs. Okay, so now if there is protein deficiency in terms of quality as well as quantity, so in case of heifers, so already I have mentioned somewhere that is delayed onset of puberty. So when there is deficiency, so pubertal age will be delayed. And in case of cow, the increase in number of days open. So there will be the more number of days where there will be no pregnancy, no milk like that. So increase in the number of days open. And in that particular situation, the milk production may be there, and that will be at the expense of reproduction when the feed intake is not adequate. So there will be somewhat milk production, so that animal will fail to reproduce, and there will be reduction in gonadotropin release, that is a hormones that is very much important for the normal reproduction, and also suppressive secretion of luteinizing hormone, that is also important hormones for the normal reproduction of the animals. Now further, if we another situation we look into, that is when there is higher excess intake of protein. So excess intake of protein, when it is there, then within the animals, so the ruminal fermentation, then there will be huge production of ammonia, and that will absorb into the blood, and ultimately there will be production of urea, excess quantity of urea. And in this particular situation, so what we find, that will impair the maturation of oocytes, and there will be subsequent this impairment of the fertilization or maturation of developing embryos. So what we can say, so excess protein is not also good for animals, for an particular animals. So where we want to get the normal reproductive purpose functions. Okay, now then so now the fatty acids, after that fats. So fatty acids, it is important for the animals, of course. So because the fatty acids and cholesterol that are the substrate for reproductive hormone synthesis. So there are hormones that is responsible for the reproduction. So that precursors of for that hormones is the cholesterol and the fatty acids. Now the fatty acids are important source of energy also. Therefore, then adequate amount, about 2 to 3% of fatty acid could improve the reproductive functioning of the dairy animals. And as per the NRC, National Research Council, so during this postpartum period, the animal ration should contain at least 3% fat on dry matter basis. So this is required to meet out the energy requirement of the animals, because the fat contain higher quantity of energy on per unit basis as compared to the carbohydrate and the protein. So fat is also that point important. Okay. Now the fatty acids, how they improve the reproductive performance, that we can say by this followed chart. The fatty acid, if we supplement, or if we add in the ration, so that increase the energy level of the feed, and as a result, so there will be increased blood glucose level and the proper hormone for production. So that will be normalize the ovary functions and increase follicle production, and as a result, the decrease anestrus period. So in that way, it is very much helpful. So the diet should also contain some amount of fat or fatty acids. Now, further, the excess fat is not also good. So if there is excess fat in the animals, so the excess fat that will be converted to non-steroid fatty acids. So these non-steroid fatty acids have been linked to greater incidence of ketosis. So there will be a particular disease condition in the animals. So there may be development of ketosis, and the retained placenta, that is that incidence will increase, and also the blood metabolites, particularly the ketogenic fatty acids. So what we say, the ketosis, so acetic acid, this beta-hydroxybutyric acid concentration is increased, and also there will be change in hormonal profile in the body. Now this is fat. Now after that, what is the role of minerals in the production of the animals? So minerals, we say that whatever minerals the animal is consuming, so we say it is the two types of minerals, or you can say we categorize these minerals in two categories. One, we say the macro minerals, so and the macro minerals. So macro minerals, there are in animal nutrition, animal science, these are 7 in number. So that macro terms is given, that is the it is required in higher quantity for the animals, and micro, it is the less quantity is required. Then this micro concept may differ in agriculture science and the animal science, because there may be some other minerals that is present in higher concentration in the plant, but in our case, this is this animal science, it is little bit different. So we say it is the 7 numbers of minerals, that is macro minerals, that is calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, potassium, sodium, chlorine, and sulfur, and other minerals, that is the macro minerals. Now the very important minerals for normal reproduction is the phosphorus. So the phosphorus is referred to as fertility minerals. So this phosphorus deficiency many times occur in the animals if we maintain the animal solely on the grazing, because the grazing and that grass component, that is very much rich in calcium, but that may be deficient in the phosphorus. And mainly the phosphorus quantity is higher in case of these brands like wheat bran and the oil seed cakes. Okay, so that's why, so this type of deficiency may occur when the animals are solely dependent on the grazing. Now, if there is phosphorus deficiency, that leads to certain condition, that is decreased fertility rate, decreased feed intake, milk production, decreased ovarian activity, irregular stress cycle, increased occurrence of cystic ovaries, delayed sexual maturity, low conception rate. So ultimately, we get low fertility from the animals, and that's why it is very important for reproduction. And many times we say that when we say this particular animal is not coming into heat, there are such type of reproductive problems. So as a veterinarian, so they first recommend the phosphorus supplementation, some thing that is high in phosphorus. So many times it works. So that's why it is referred to these minerals. There's huge roles in reproduction, and that's why it is referred as fertility minerals. Now the another important mineral, that is the selenium, that is we know that is the natural antioxidants. So as an antioxidant, it protects both the intra and extracellular lipid membranes against oxidative damage. So if the proper quantity of selenium is there, and that reduces the incidence of retained placenta, improves uterine involutions, improves the silent heat conditions, and further we can say if there is deficiency, so we find this type of condition, retained placenta, then reduced fertility, the increased chances of placental retention, mastitis, material like that. Okay. Now the zinc, this is very important minerals from reproductive point of view, because it repairs and maintains the uterine lining after parturition. So it for maintenance of the uterine lining membrane regeneration, this mineral is also very much important. And in case of male, so it is important because if there is deficiency, there is poor semen quality, reduced testicular size, as well as libido. Now the copper, so this is also a vital component in many enzyme system, and that is related further to the this reproductive efficiency of the animals. But because it is seen that in female, the high concentration of copper in the blood, that increases the FSH hormone concentration, follicle stimulating hormone, that is very much important for the normal reproductive purpose of the animals. So in case of deficiency, copper deficiency, there is lack of appetite, reduced feed intake as a result. So that will give even the energy imbalance and all these things. So there is a failure of stress, delayed puberty, repeat bleeding, impaired concentration, etc. Number of things. So after copper, the manganese. So this manganese is involved in the synthesis of cholesterol, which is required for the synthesis of sex hormone. Because already have mentioned the cholesterol or fatty acid, that is the precursor for the synthesis of sex hormone. So as this deficiency of this manganese, so decrease in the synthesis of sex hormone, and as a result, they decrease fertility due to abnormal sperm in males and irregular star cycles in female. Now the calcium. So calcium actually not directly related to this reproductive efficiency of the animals, but it has some roles that affect the reproductive efficiency of the animals. How? Because if there is excess calcium in the diet, that influences the absorption, that decrease the absorption of certain minerals, phosphorus, magnesium, zinc, copper, manganese, and other minerals. So these minerals have a major role for the this reproductive efficiency of the animals. Further, if there is low calcium in the diet, so hypocalcemia, that causes milk fever in the cow, as well as due to calcium deficiency, that increases the incidence of dystocia, retained placenta, prolapsed uterus, delayed uterine involutions. So calcium is required for the maintenance of normal muscle tones. So due to lack of this thing, calcium deficiency, there is alteration in the muscular tones. So that leads to this type of condition, this dystocia, retained placenta, all these things, prolapsed uterus, uterine involution, delayed condition, all these things. So this calcium. After that, the iodine. So this is required for the synthesis of thyroid hormone. And if there is deficiency, the thyroid hormone production is hampered. As a result, so there is reduces the secretion of FSH and LH. And we know the importance of the FSH and LH. So if there is this reduced secretion of the FSH and LH, that impair the fertility and increase the abortion rate, retention placenta, genital infection, all these things. So that is related with these things. So because there's a low production of this FSH and LH due to deficiency of iodine, and that is further linked with the thyroid function. Now the cobalt, so that is in case of ruminants, that is mainly required for the synthesis of vitamin B12. And if there is deficiency of vitamin B12, that causes the deprived appetite, the lack of appetite, and when there is less lack of appetite, there is less consumption of it, and when there is less consumption of it, there is a deficiency condition of the energy, protein, and all these things. As a result, there is failure in stress, delayed onset of puberty, birth of dead calves, etc. So now after that, the chromium, so it exerts a role on the follicular maturation and LH release, lutein hormone release. And due to increase in tissue uptake of glucose, amino acid, it potentiates the insulin action. So this is, we know, so the glucose tolerance factor. We say the chromium as a glucose tolerance factor. They are responsible for the proper use of glucose and also the other nutrients. And also it has some other role. It plays role in the secretion of pregnancy specific protein from the uterus, which is required for the preventing early embryonic death of the these calves, you can say newborn. So that is within the mother's womb, okay, within the uterus. So deficiency in lactating cows lead to the increased incidence of ketosis and decrease in milk production. So now these, if we look into this mineral content in some of the commonly fed fodder or feed, so this thing, if we look, this cowpea, lucerne, berseem, so the calcium content is very high. So this is a very good source of calcium. And this, if we take this maize, sorghum, wheat, barley, so this calcium content is low. They're poor in calcium. But soybean meal, cottonseed meal, it is in between. So these are this calcium. Then about the phosphorus, this soybean meal, cottonseed meal, that is the cakes. This also contain higher amount of calcium, then cobalt, copper, all these things. So that is reported by NDDB. There is a mineral content of this some important feeds that is fed to the animals. Now the another one, that is vitamins. So the vitamins requirement in case of ruminant, that is made at the synthesis in the rumen, there is a tissue synthesis as well as the natural feed and feed supplementation. Because in case of ruminants, in the rumen there is most of the vitamins that is synthesized by the rumen microbes, and something we like to add from the outside. So that's why I have written the vitamin requirement made by the combination of rumen, tissue synthesis, natural feed, and feed supplementation. Now the very important vitamin, that is vitamin A, that is required for the normal reproduction. So that is the vitamin A, retinol. This is required for the maintaining the healthy tissues in the genital tract or in the reproductive tract. Because if there is a deficiency of vitamin A, then there is degeneration of the germinal epithelium, then degeneration of the placenta, retention of placenta, all these problems are there. So this is very important. Okay, so this vitamin A, that's normal quantity, normal amount should be there in the feed. And in case of ruminants, they get the vitamin A from the green fodders, carotene. So that is converted to vitamin A within the system. So that's why it shows the needs of the this green fodder supplementation in the animal ration to have the normal reproductive function. Now here this vitamin D, this is related with the normal calcium phosphorus metabolism, because this vitamin D is required for the normal calcium phosphorus metabolism, and they helps in the absorptions of calcium and phosphorus from the gut. If there is optimum quantity of vitamin D, then it will happen. Otherwise, there will be problem in the absorption of this calcium and phosphorus. Now, in Indian condition, because we are in the tropical country, so its deficiency is not likely to occur if animals have access to sunlight. So sunlight, when there is sunlight, there is synthesis of these vitamins in the skin. Also in the dry plants, when we cut the plants, we prepare hay, then also there is a synthesis of vitamin D, D2 actually, and in case of animal body skin, that is D3. Okay, then if there is a deficiency of these vitamins, they will find some condition, that is the anestrus condition, then impotentia queenda in the bulls, so lack of this sex desire in case of bulls. So this is vitamin D. And another one we have that is related with the this reproductive efficiency, infertility, you can say. So this thing, the vitamin E, it is known as the anti-sterility vitamins. So it is also an antioxidant like selenium, that was the minerals. So that is the intracellular antioxidant. Okay, so the sufficient quantity of vitamin E, so this thing is available in the normal feed. So normally the deficiency is not there. Even then, it is shown that the supplementation of some quantity, 1000 IU vitamin E during last 40 days of gestation, reduces the incidence of retained placenta in the dairy cattle. So there is less incidence of this thing, the retained placenta, if we add vitamin D, vitamin E till the last 40 days, last the 1.5 month of its gestation. So this is the role of vitamin E, and that is the antioxidative vitamin. Now, as a whole, the B complex. So normally the deficiency is not there because the rumen microbes, they take care. I mean to say they are able to synthesize all these vitamins. Even then, in some specific condition, the deficiency may be there. And when there is deficiency, so that will be the similar type of effect of the underfeeding, because most of the vitamins B deficiency, B complex deficiency, there is this lack of appetite, so less desire to consume the feed. And the vitamin B12 synthesis, we know that this cobalt is required for the synthesis of vitamin B12, that particular minerals. Now, if there is deficiency, so there is reduction in appetite, decreased feed intake, delayed sexual maturity, atrophy of the ovaries and uterus of the cow, is all the vitamin B complex. And vitamin C, so the exact role is not known for reproduction, but it is seen that the corpus luteum, the adrenal cortex, they contain higher concentration of the ascorbic acid, vitamin C. The concentration is higher, but the role is not, at least I have not this in the opinion that which type of role this vitamin has for the reproduction. Okay, now this, if we say from the reproductive point of view, that the requirement of these minerals, so this I have expressed these things. The phosphorus, normal phosphorus requirement for the reproduction is somewhere 3.5 to 3.9 gram phosphorus per 100 gram digestible protein. In other terms, we can say for a normal cow, so this digestible protein requirement is somewhere 250 to 60 gram. So in that case, it will be some 10-12 gram phosphorus is required per day for a particular animals. And similarly, the calcium requirement will be some 20-25 to 30 grams. This if we calculate in this way, that 7 to 8 gram calcium for 100 gram digestible crude protein. So if we consider the total amount of crude protein that is required for the animals for a day, so it will be somewhere 25-30 gram of calcium. Likewise, the selenium, the normal selenium requirement in the ration is 0.1 to 0.3 ppm. Like the zinc, it is somewhere 40-50 ppm. So there is range, this 18 to 30, 73, then copper, then manganese, then iodine. This is the normal requirement for the adequate diet to have the normal reproductive efficiency of the animals. Now regarding the protein, so the 14% on dry matter basis for a normal reproduction, so it is somewhere, as a for whole diet, it is somewhere 9% total diet, because some we use concentrate that contains maybe 20% protein. We use some fodder that may contain 4%, 7%. So on an average, as a whole diet should contain about 9% protein, and this animal should also consume some 9 to 10 kg, 9 to 10 kg of dry feed. So here I have written the 8.6 kg that is reported by some workers. So there is the dry feed, there is feed requirement, dry feed, of course, not fresh feed. The dry matter requirement, we say in nutrition, it says the dry matter intake. So about 9 kilo, and the protein percent in the diet is somewhere 9%. Now the energy requirements, so energy, this is the metabolizable energy mcal per kg dry diet. So for the reproduction, it is somewhere 1.9 mcal me per kg dry diet. So of course, if you see these figures, so the growth for the growth is all these things is higher. So growth is not that much efficient. Okay, so growth needs huge quantity of nutrients as compared to the other function, so lactation, reproduction, all these things. Now, what strategies we should consider for the feeding of the animals to get the normal reproduction? So we should say, so we should follow the scientific feeding. So always the animals should be fed to fulfill the nutrition requirement, not too high, not less. So if there is less, then of course there is deficiency condition, and the deficiency will badly affect the nutritional, this reproductive performance. Also, higher quantity is not advisable, somewhere I have mentioned, and supplementation of green fodder in the diet. So green fodder has huge role. So particularly the macronutrients. So this mineral concentration is very high. So animal get mineral from that thing. Animal get other easily digestible feeds. And there is a scope of using unconventional feed. So you can also use some unconventional feed to balance this thing, all the nutrients. So and there is, I mean to say that instead of to fulfill the deficiency, when we have less feed, so also we can use unconventional feed with that feed. And complete feed system, this is one of the good idea, because complete feed system means it contains all the nutrients in balanced quantity. So all the protein, all the energy, minerals, vitamins, all these things. So complete feed system, it will be block form, the pellet form, so that we can give to the animal. So it will take care of all the feeds, all the nutrients requirements. And category wise feeding of the animals. So you know the nutrient requirement varies depending on the category, small, large, milk, reproductive. So we should not give all the diet to all the animals. So depending on the need, depending on the requirement, the animal should be fed. And also the very important one is the training of the farmer. So the farmer should know what to feed the animals in what time, what quantity, so that we can achieve by training of the farmer. So they should be educated, they should be trained, so that they will be able to know that what has to be fed to his or her animals. Now, at the last, we can say there's what I have discussed. We can say the nutrition is directly related to the reproduction. So there is positive correlation between the proper nutrition and reproduction. So in any deficiency condition, so that will badly affect the reproduction. So we will not get newborn animals from that animals. We will not get proper quantity of milk. So there will be a loss for the farmers. So this should be avoided. And the nutrient either in deficient amount or higher amount is capable of altering the reproduction. So what the best recommendation we can give from this presentation, so is to provide the feeding program which is balanced for all nutrients and meet all the known nutrient requirements. That we can say. So the proper feeding is the only answer to have the proper reproduction from the animals. So I think it is 3:15. So this is from my side. Thank you all. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot
Thank
for the
you,
presentation.
sir, please.
Thank you, sir. Now, if there are any questions, please ask.
पार्टिसिपेंट किससे आएगा इसमें?
हाँ दीजिए।
नहीं तो
हाँ इनके क्वेश्चंस होंगे ना कुछ इसमें बॉक्स में चाहिए सर
ये अरे 110 पार्टिसिपेंट हो गए।
हाँ इसमें क्वेश्चंस होंगे कुछ सबके दे दीजिए। मैसेज इसलिए करते हैं ताकि उनको वो मिल जाए सर उन्हें हाँ इसलिए मैसेज करना भी जरूरी होता है।
If there are any questions, please ask right now. Sir, there is one more question in chat. Yeah, what is the role of silage in pregnant animals?
No, hello.
Yes, sir.
So we can't say this silage has a specific role in pregnant animals. Silage, we should say this is a preserved crops, and whatever we are giving to the animals, that will provide nutrient to the animals, all the nutrients. So it may be silage, it may be hay, It may be other feed also. So for us, from nutritional point of view, it will provide nutrient to the animals, nothing else. So we are feeding the animals to fulfill their nutrient requirements. So if we give silage, that will do all these things. So particularly, we can't say this, if we feed silage, then there will be this particular problem will be nullified, or it problem will be more. That we can't say.
There's a question regarding can we give liquid calcium?
Yeah. Calcium, definitely we can give, but from
To all age groups of cattle.
so just 1 minute. So if we say the calcium liquid and powder form, so most of the cases, even for human medicine, also animal medicine, so the liquid, the supplements, many times quality wise that may be somewhat inferior to that powder form. So the syrup, this liquid form. So it is better to give, because we are mixing that thing with the feed. So powder form is more advisable as compared to this liquid form. Okay. So, but if you like to give, then you can give. And regarding the calcium, this age and calcium supplementation, of course, we can give to all animals, but the dose will vary. For adult animals, the calcium normal requirement is somewhere 25 to 30 gram, and for heifers 10 gram, 15 gram, like that. And very early age, so it is very less, so 2-3 grams. Even the after second weeks, we offer the calf starter to the animals. We also mix calcium supplements, mineral supplement to that also. So it is required for the normal bone growth. So calcium mainly it is required for the this other skeleton, this development and all these things. So that is for young animals also, that is important, that we should give. The one question is, what are the adverse effect of anti-nutritional factor on pregnant animals? So anti-nutritional, sir, anti-nutritional factor is a broad term. There are numbers of members in this anti-nutritional factor group. So if we take one by one, then only if there are any harmful effect, that can be discussed. So Prasad, Mr. Prasad has mentioned this thing. So anti-nutritional factor is a group of this, is a broad term, I can say. So if you say the particular factors, that then it can be answered.
Sir, there is one more question. Can we calculate protein and energy requirement in dairy animals on basis of weight?
Yeah. So that is there for the only basis is on the basis of weight. Yeah. For all these things, the weight is the criteria mainly. So on the basis of body weight, we calculate protein, what amount of protein should be given and what amount of energy should be given.
One more question is how this silage or moisture level of the forages affects the metabolic conditions, that is the metabolic acidosis or lamentasis, permanent period, periparturient period.
Which one?
Can you scroll up, sir? Can you drag the mouse and scroll up?
Yeah. How this silage or moisture level of the forage affect the metabolic condition? See that if we just take these points, so animal needs amount of water. So this water we get, or also we need water. We get water from these three sources mainly. One is the drinking water, another one is the metabolic water. So that metabolic water arises due to the metabolism of the nutrients within the body. So if we say carbohydrate is converted to oxygen, this carbon dioxide, water, and some amount of heat. So that is metabolic water. And the third source is the feed. We are getting from the feed. So if when we are consuming the green fodder and also the silage, means when the animal is consuming the green fodder, also the silage, then the animal will use that amount of water that is the present in that particular feed. So green fodder. So in green fodder, about about 70% water is there, and 30% only the dry feed. And also in silage, about 65% water is there. So that water will be used as what fulfill the water requirement of the animals. So we can't say how the silage and moisture level of the forest affect the metabolic condition. So metabolic condition, what I can say, the only the water requirement, drinking water requirement will decrease for that particular animals if we offer the silage and green fodder. So that thing. And the acidosis laminitis, so that term is related. So in case of ruminants, so we can't say it is this green fodder silage. So this particular two condition, what this sir has mentioned. So if we offer the animal huge quantity of the concentrate, particularly the grains, if there is grain feeding, suppose we are offering this grain, means I mean to say milo, corn, then wheat, rice. If the animal consuming huge quantity of this, so when it will enter into the rumen, so rumen there is microbes, and they will quickly ferment this fodder, this feed, and there will be production of huge quantity of acid. So this condition we say it is the acidosis, rumen acidosis, and also it has role with the laminitis of the animals. So that is related to the feeding of the grains mainly. Grain, I mean to say concentrate. So these are two, in my opinion, these are two different issues. Actually, when the silage or high moisture feed we will give, so that quantity of moisture present in that will fulfill the water requirement of the animals, and the acidosis and laminitis that are related with the high engorgement or higher feeding of the concentrate, particularly the grains in the animals. And can we give the urea molasses block in pregnant cattle? No doubt. But when we recommend the urea molasses feeding, I mean to say urea, so then we should take care of some points. There's some precaution is there, because when we recommend urea feeding or urea molasses, what you are saying, that I think the Rahul Dev Mukherjee has put that question. So then we should take some precaution. That is, the dose is very vital. So at a time we should not give more quantity of urea. But why you are saying that we can give urea? Because in normal phenomenon, suppose we are giving some protein feed to the animals. So when it enters the rumen, so the rumen macros will break down this protein to amino acid to ammonia, and then this ammonia will be utilized by the rumen macros to utilize their own protein. And when the urea will enter into the rumen, then also the urea will convert to ammonia. So both the cases the fat is ammonia, and that ammonia will be utilized by the rumen macros to make their own body protein. Now here the question is the dose. First thing is the dose. If urea is highly degradable, 100% degradable. If we give more quantity of urea at a time, so what will be there? So it will be broken down to ammonia quickly, and there will be huge quantity of ammonia, and that will be beyond the capacity of the rumen macros to utilize that. So as a result, that will be absorbed, the ammonia will be absorbed to the blood, and there will be ammonia toxicity. Their chances of ammonia toxicity will be there. That is not advisable. So the first precaution will be, so the urea content should be low, means concentration, amount, dose will be, you should keep it low. And what is that? What quantity we recommend for an adult cattle, the daily we can give about 90 to 100 gram of urea, but in several divided doses. In per case, it should not be more than 10 to 20 gram. So if we give 10 to 20 gram urea mixed with the molasses or any other energy source, a molasses or starch, then this ammonia, this urea will be able to utilize by the macros. Otherwise, if we increase the dose, then there will be chances of urea or ammonia toxicity. That is there. So and also the water availability should be there everywhere. This because if there is higher concentration of ammonia, the animal automatically will consume more amount of water to reduces the bad effect. But the main condition is the dose. Dose should be very less at a time, I mean to say. One is the total quantity per a day, and I am saying the one time. So one time should be very less. Any more question, please? RBI.
There are a few down. Yeah.
What are the adverse effect of antiretroviral factors of pregnancy? So that is over. Then very thank you, sir. If any fungal growth is observed in silage, should we use in normal feeding? No. So no. So okay. So good one that if any fungal growth is observed in the silage, should it be used for the animal feeding? Obviously no. See that when we prepare silage, the silage is a method of preservation of green fodder, of course. Now, if we prepare in a good manner, you can say in right way, then it is useful to the animals. And if we fail to do all this justice, you can say these methods, if we do not apply all these things properly. So first thing is it should be kept in airtight condition. See, if we do not maintain that thing, then we will find the fungal growth, and that should not be fed. Definitely, that should be discarded. So that is, if we prepare it properly, definitely it will be a good feed for animals. But if you do not prepare it properly, then you should throw that the fungal affected part. So you will find the white, the patches, that is the fungal growth. So that should be discarded straight away. That's there. So there are some report, but clearly regarding the supplement of betaine in lactating pregnant cattle. So I can't say clearly this, but I have seen some report in this literature also. Somewhere it is recommended, but how far it will be helpful? Okay, so which is the selenium rich feed, sir? The selenium, it is the mineral supplement. So there are some grasses that contain good quantity of selenium. This mainly the grazing this grass so component. Otherwise, this normally we offer this thing as a mineral supplements. So what mineral mixture we prepare in the lab? So there we add the selenium content, this selenium salt, you can say. So that will be better. See, any feeding strategy for pregnant animals during scarcity of fodder and drought, during drought situation. See that scarcity of fodder or drought situation. So this is a particular condition, because during this condition we say scarcity means less supply of feed and fodder, no doubt. But if we look in the another side, the animal is pregnant. So animal is pregnant. That means there is newborn offspring within the mother's body, and this this newborn, it needs water, these nutrients. So that we should supply. We should supply from any means. Okay, so these are both the different type of issues. So if we say there's less supply of feed, and we are not able to give the right quantity of feed to the animals, then the consequent will be the poor growth of the fetus and underweight and all these things. But we should give the proper quantity of feed by any means. Okay. Feeding strategy, we can say that concentrate we should feed. And this particularly you can say that during a scarcity, mainly the fodder supply is hampered. But because the concentrate feed, that we can purchase. That is available in the market, concentrate as well as other things. Okay, but whatever I have seen in Rajasthan also, I have seen that during scarcity, there is the supply of roughage is affected mainly, because during scarcity there is failure in crop production. So that's why. And even nowadays, we can say the scarcity period also, that fodder is also supplied by the neighboring state, and that is available. So we should go with the proper feeding of the animals. Okay, I
Thank
think,
you,
sir,
sir.
it is over. Please.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We are exactly on time to finish
Yeah,
our
yeah.
lecture, and also that was a wonderful interaction. Thank you for answering those queries. On
Thank
behalf of
you.
the participants, on behalf of the organizing committee, and on behalf of all the parties involved, thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for being with
Thank
us. It
you.
was such
Thank you.
a
Thank you
wonderful
all.
session.
Okay, it is my pleasure that you have invited me to deliver this lecture. I am very much happy also. Okay. Thank you, sir. Please.
Thank you. Participants can leave now, and we can join back tomorrow in the morning session. That would be around 11 a.m. Again, there would be a different link which will be shared in the WhatsApp group, and you can join. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
करो।
नीचे से कर दीजिए
कहाँ से?
यहाँ से हाँ। ये